Hi guys. So we're going to be starting off with a setup that I had literally been waiting for since last week, the key note. Uh, so USDJPY. I'm going to start us off on the 4 hour time frame just so we get a good idea of what has been happening. Okay. So we have this large expansion to the downside. All right. It's common with expansions. We left imbalances behind, okay, in the wake of the expansion. Now, we're going to be focusing on this fair value gap here. If you take a closer look, we're going to see that price kind of was consolidating for a while before eventually tapping into this fair value gap. Now, the fact that this consolidation was happening just before this fair value gap, for me, was a very good sign, because it's a sign that institutions are manufacturing liquidity to potentially tap into this fair value gap and then fuel the move to the downside, right? So this liquidity acts as fuel for the move to the downside. Okay. When we scale down to the lower time frame, the first thing we're going to notice is as soon as price taps into this fair value gap, we saw massive displacement to the downside. And as is common with displacements, we also left imbalances behind, right? Now, another thing that's common with displacements is you actually want to see structure shifts. For example, at this point, and if you look closely, you're going to see that price literally went through this point and went through, right? That's a sign of displacement. Okay, so coming into my session, which is this little blue box we have here, the London session. Okay, now initially I actually took a trade at this point, which I lost, and eventually I took a re-entry when price got to this second fair value gap, which thankfully played out without any trouble. Okay, but although I did kind of initially I thought I had fucked up this entry because I saw price consolidating and I had a feeling that perhaps price might actually, I don't know, go for one final sweep, take my stop loss and then move in my direction. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. Okay, so let's switch over to AUDUSD. AUDUSD is a bit different. On the 4 hour, we can clearly see that there we had the accumulation at this point, price sweats, and then even though this doesn't look like much, it's an expansion phase. We would consider it as expansion, right? And looking very closely at this expansion, our last fair value gap, our last major fair value gap, I would say was, okay, I'm looking at this, but yeah, I would say was at this point. Okay, if it's cleared out to the lower time frame, we're going to see that price tapped, consolidated, swept, tapped into the fair value gap and expanded. Now we had another consolidation, came down, consolidation right before this this order block, price tapped in. So the interesting thing is, as is common with most AUD and I would say JPY pairs as well, I don't know about other pairs, the expansion actually started during the Asian session. But thankfully, I would say this trade was literally due to experience trading my system, because it was a bit nuanced, the way that the setup showed a very subtle setup. Really, it wasn't like, well, anyway. So yeah, on my entry time frame, I literally waited. I wanted to see price clear either this liquidity or this liquidity, something substantial, and eventually price cleared this liquidity, tapped right into this other block, resting just conveniently below this fair value gap here. And yeah, you can just see the impulse to the upside as price literally displaced to the upside, which is a term that we literally just looked at, right? So upon this change of character here, I took this trade, this entry, pretty simple entry. Unfortunately though, I have a rule that as soon as it's 4 p.m. Nigerian time, I close any running trade. And while USDJPY played out, this one didn't quite play out before 4 p.m. So I actually had to close at this point, which gave me about 1.29 hour. Well, some days you need money on the table, right? Okay, so finally, we're going to take a look at EURUSD because I want to talk about something here. So the thing is, I actually chickened out of the EURUSD trade, and for good reason. But I would say this from experience, right? Correlation or not, you need to understand that every individual pair has its own individual objective, and like it or not, that objective is going to be completed. It is, because tell me how EURUSD, so I took this setup, yes, fine, I chickened out, but while it was massively playing out, I won't show you the 5 minute, while it was literally melting, AUDUSD buy was playing out, USDJPY sell was playing out. I need to think about that for a moment. But anyway, the reason I took this trade was because if you look at our recent price action, right, we're going to see that we've been manufacturing liquidity for a while. So just like the trade idea in my previous trade recap, the whole idea around this was to kind of sell into liquidity, hopefully tap into our area of interest and then continue move. Now price actually didn't get to my area of interest, but this trading would have played out if I hadn't chickened out. But I wanted to talk about it because I wanted to show you guys how with time and with experience I've come to learn that those objectives will be respected. If you've seen the video up to this point, thank you for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and comment your views.